quickest way to change your life? There's multiple answers to this, but what I want to share with you in today's episode are the things that have really transformed my life and how you can access them. Welcome to another episode of Coming to Your Senses. And I know that I'm biased because my business is coaching, but I can honestly say that it is something that's truly transformed my life. But coaching isn't for everyone, and it's not for everyone right now. And I think that when we are looking to transform our lives in whatever way, shape, or form, the key is A, asking for help, but B, asking for help from someone who can actually help us. Now, I didn't know any kind of support was really available in any aspect of my life, whether it was to do with health or mental health or personal growth. I genuinely didn't know. And I'm talking sort of like 25 years ago. I didn't know any of this stuff existed. And obviously this is pre-internet and pre-social media. So these things weren't so much in your face. And I wasn't someone who would go and spend time at a library or a bookshop. That wasn't my go-to. I suppose the only way that I knew that you could get help was by going to a doctor. And I saw that as really only when you've got something seriously wrong with you physically. It wasn't a conversation 25 years ago and more about mental health, which is far more prominent now. But when I think we're talking about mental health, we are talking often at cross purposes as to what could be going on. And I think that's the challenge. When you're looking for help, it's about reaching out and exploring what could be the right thing for you. I had a coaching inquiry come in recently. And as I always do with coaching inquiries, we have a little bit of an email exchange. And if the person is still interested, then we set up an initial conversation, which is completely complimentary. And the purpose of it is not only for me to give my perspective about coaching and the way that I work, which I want to share with you today in the podcast, but it's important for me to understand specifically what that person is looking for and why we initially have those exchanges via email. Because very often someone reaches out either via a recommendation, which is always great, but it doesn't mean that just because the way that I've worked as a coach has been successful with one person, that it's right for someone else. And what I'm thinking of in particular is a gentleman who reached out recently, who gave me this wonderful insight into where he was at in his life and what was going on. And we had a few little email exchanges. And what my instinct was telling me, or my intuition more specifically was telling me, was that this gentleman absolutely could do with some support, but I wasn't 100% sure that I was the right person. So through that initial conversation on the phone, we could get clarity on that. And through that conversation, and specifically when someone's got a lot of things on their mind, to me, it's important to sort of put everything into a sieve and go through that to clarify what could be the right approach for them. So in this instance, through further consultation with the gentleman, it was obvious that he'd experienced some various types of both little t trauma and big T trauma in his life over many years. And therefore, I'm not best placed to do that, to work with him. Yes, of course, there are some things that I can do, and they may or may not have made a difference. But I think from where he was starting at, I think it was important for him to go to some other therapies, which I gave him some resources to go and look at. And I think that's what's important. The moment you realize that there is something that you could do with some support with, don't just immediately assume that it's a particular type of therapy or it's a coaching process or something else, mentoring, for example. Explore it. Have a look. Go watch some videos specifically of certain people if you can, or if those people don't have videos online or audios online or podcasts, is to go and explore that methodology, whatever it is, in whatever way that you can, to see if you can work out if that's going to be the right way forward for you. So, for example, massage. Sounds like a really simple thing, go book a massage, but there are so many different types. And they're different for different reasons because the body needs different things at different times and we need different things at different times. So it's important for you to do your research. So if you're if you're the kind of person that's gone, do you know what? I think I could do with some support with a particular thing that's going on in my life, then explore, do some research, reach out to me if you think that it's coaching. And if I'm not the right coach for you, then I've got colleagues that I might point you toward. If it doesn't look like the way that my style works is going to suit you or match your needs. And it's the same thing whether you are looking for massage or whether you're looking for counseling or whether you're looking for some kind of trauma therapy. Is get curious, ask questions. Don't just assume just because a process has worked for one person that it's immediately the right thing for you. And I would always recommend, especially with coaching, is to interview 3 people. And that's why I have those initial exchanges via email and also then a telephone conversation if that then seems appropriate. To me, that's an interview process. I'm interviewing the client to see if they're the right kind of client and their needs match the way that I work. And it's an opportunity for you as a coachee to interview me. And I wouldn't say stop there. I would say go and have an explore with other coaches and see if there's one that's appropriate, that fits, because it's so important when you're looking for a transformational process, whether it's massage, whether it's a personal trainer for your fitness, whether it's a nutritionist or a health coach. It's about finding somebody that is going to address what it is that you're looking to. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to like the way that they work. So different gentlemen that I worked with years ago, and in fact, Mike's story is on my webpage under their successes or their about them. And he openly states that when we first had our initial conversations, I pissed him off. And I pushed his buttons so much that he came off the call and went, she's annoying me so much that I know she's the right person for me to work with. Now, that may sound really odd, but what he knew is that he wanted someone to challenge him. And I think it's important to recognize that, because a good coach is going to stretch you, but a great coach is really going to challenge you. And there are times in the way that I work as a coach that I will often say, I can see that I've asked a question that a client is kind of squirming, even if it's not on the outside. I can kind of see that process going on. Now, to me, that's this is working. This is helpful. This is going to take them to a point of transformation. A point of confusion is great because it means that you are looking at something or someone, yourself, hopefully, in a different way, that it's your usual way of thinking is being challenged. Now, that's not always comfortable. I know that from when I am coached by my coach. But I also know that, and I know this now from years of working as a coach, but also working with my coach, is I know that the times when I squirm the most, if I was going to do an equation, it would always be that the times I squirm the most equal the most amount of growth, the biggest transformation. And it's quite annoying, really, because I don't want to go through that squirmy point. But that's always where those breakthroughs happen. That's always where those insights, where that clarity comes from. So when you interview your coaches, don't, or other therapists as well, don't let it be just about, oh yeah, because it's nice and makes me feel great. Because like with a sports massage, it's not always comfortable. There are times when screaming is involved, but that's because to do and get to the points the way they need to, sometimes that's appropriate. So be aware of that when you're looking for somebody. So always look for someone who's going to stretch you. If you really want to transform, then you really need to be stretched and challenged. We all do. That's how we work as humans. But I think that what's really important is the distinction between, for example, counseling, mentoring, and coaching, because I think there's some, if they were all three circles, there would be some overlap. But I think they're very, very distinctive roles. And when you recognize that you could do with some support in some way, you want to transform your life, then looking for the appropriate person comes from doing a bit of due diligence around which I'm going to keep using the word therapy. Methodology is probably better. Is going to get you from where you are and help you transform to where it is that you're looking to get to. So, counseling, from my perspective, in a kind of headline, is looking at why and how you are where you are right now, and often is looking to find resolution with the experiences that you've had in your life. That's my perception of counseling. And I know that, again, just within pretty much, like I mentioned, massage, there's lots of different methodologies within that as well. Now, mentoring. Mentor is funny because I've started with a new business mentor recently. And I, in our initial call, I had I came off kind of going, oh, she's just telling me what to do. And I got a bit peed off at it. And I realized that, oh, yeah, that's what a mentor does, as I'm used to working with a coach. And recognizing and reminding myself that this mentor role is very different. So a mentor is somebody who's further along a path than you are. So they will be somebody who maybe they're not immediately in your industry, but they've got some alignment to. So, for example, this person who's my business mentor is not directly within my industry, but she runs her own small business. She works in a one-to-one capacity as well as in a group capacity. There's many aspects of her business that align with mine. So that's why I've reached out to her. I've had various different business mentors over the years, all for different reasons, all about transforming the business and therefore in the process transforming me. If you've seen the episode or listened to the episode about the best 3 personal development courses, you'll know that running your own business is one of those. And that's where, for me, a business mentor has been so valuable, because they are stretching me and they are somebody who is further along. So it might be a mentor, if we take it back sort of like the years gone when we were living in the much smaller communities and we knew each other, the mentors really would be the elders of the tribe. And they would be the people that have got the hunting experience, that have got the gathering experience, that had the caring, the nurturing, the way of building community, building homes. They had that experience. Now, whether they were 10 years older than you or 100 years older than you, that's why you would be going to them. They would be the wise ones of the village, which now we class as mentors, and we can have mentors in various capacities. So it's somebody who is further along down the road than you are. Now, we can often have those really within our friendship group, and they may not be as formal a relationship as the one that I'm working with. I've worked with business mentors before that have gifted me their services because they have reached a point in their career where they want to pass on what they've learned. This particular one that I'm working with, there's a payment exchange. So they're all different. And I think that sometimes, without realizing it, we can have that mentor relationship within our families or within our friendship groups. So, for example, there is a friend in my friendship group who is much further along in the gardening world. And she is kind of mentoring. There's a number of us that go to her and go, this is going on in my garden. What can I do? Or like I said to her at the weekend, I want to move my strawberries. When's the best time to do it? And she was like, So she's without it being a formal arrangement, she's sort of like a mentor for me. And there are various things that we do and I think with any friendship group or family group, this kind of questioning and dynamic can evolve. And it doesn't have to be formal about labeling it in something, but it's acknowledging that someone is further along that route, that road, and therefore you might be asking them questions of support to be able to help you, or they may be asking you. But if you're looking for a mentor, I think one of the things that has surprised me, and I've got a couple of mentees at the moment, is don't be afraid to ask if somebody would mentor you, but be specific as to what it is that you're looking for. And actually, when you're doing your research to find out which methodology, when you're looking for support, whether it is counselling or another therapy, or whether it is massage or personal trainer, or whether it's mentor or coach, is be as specific as you can with what you're looking for, because that's or rather what your needs are, because that's then going to help you find what it is that you're looking for through your interviewing of these people. So mentoring, I think that when the two people that I'm mentoring at the moment, both of them came with very different needs. And when we got really clear, one of them initially actually came to me for coaching, but the initial conversation, we had a few email exchanges, and then every time she was getting clearer and clearer on what it was that she was looking for. So we jumped on a call, and actually what became apparent was it was a combination of a bit of coaching but mentoring. So we have this agreement where it's a breakdown in time frame of, we're going to talk about this, then we're going to talk about this, and so the coach hat goes on, or the mentor hat goes on, and it's very clear. Whilst there may be some slight overlaps, it's very, very clear. And I think what's made that relationship really helpful and viable is because she was clear what she wanted. She was really specific with what she wanted. So it made it very helpful for me to be able to say yes to this bit, or no to that bit, or what if we did this? And I trusted my intuition with amalgamating a package for her. The other mentee, very, very different. She is setting up as a coach, and wants to just basically pick my brains, as she puts it, once a month, with looking at where things that I've done in my business and things that she wants to do in hers. I think that one of the things that seems to me, in my experience, this may be very different for you if you've had a mentor, is that mentors for me have been far more specific for a period of time. So it's to do X or Y, and it's much more, I've got this problem, tell me how to resolve it, or what would you do? And that's been really helpful as a shortcut, because they've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Coaching is very different. It's a much more explorative, transformative inquiry that goes on. So I'm not giving the answers. The way that I often talk about my coaching is by using a triangle. So the foundational part of that triangle, which is the foundational part of my coaching, the first part, if you've ever done any coaching or been around me, then you'll know that it's questions. Coaches will ask questions time and time and time and time and time again, and very often the same question. Through the questioning process, it's about challenging the thinking, which is where there's a couple of questions that I ask repeatedly in different ways for clients. And one of the things that I notice is that pretty much most clients have the same reaction, especially if they're over the age of 30. Most people under the age of 30 don't have this reaction. They've got less stuff internally, I think. But over the age of 30, specifically, there's 2 or 3 questions that I know that I ask, and this scrunchy face happens, or this kind of like, oh God, that's difficult. Oh, I don't know the answer to that. I had a conversation with a client last week, and we were talking about something in particular, and I gave him a nuanced way of the question that he was asking himself. Now, the question he was asking himself, which was, why am I doing this? He could come up with tons of answers. Well, there's this. And I said to him, knowing that you've got all of that evidence there, does it change anything? And he's like, well, I suppose not. No, it just gives me more information as to why I'm doing the thing. It's like, right. So what if you change the question to, how am I doing this, as opposed to why am I doing this? And it was like this wall went up. He was like, oh my God, I don't know how to answer that. That's really difficult, because every attempt that he made to answer it led him down the path of why as opposed to how. And that's the role of a coach. Any good and great coach will ask a question that's nuanced, that will hopefully bring a blank screen in front of your mind, because then that's disrupting the thought pattern that you've had and the rhetorical answers that you've been used to giving, rather than consciously thinking through something and being challenged. And to me, that's what's really important, is asking those questions that challenge. And what's on the opposite side of that foundational, of that triangle, is listening. And what's key is I'm as a coach, I'm not listening to what's being said. My intention is to listen beyond that, listen beyond the words. And interestingly enough, in the membership, the theme this month, if you don't know, then I run a membership community called Conscious Conversations. And each month the community they vote on which theme they would like to focus on. And this month it's the art and power of listening. Even just in the first week of the exploration of that, so many of them have been blown away of the impact of it, the intensity of it, the challenge around listening, how much we think we are when we're not. And there's many different ways that we can and don't listen. And to me as a coach, I think that was one of the things that helped me see the power of this as a process, because even just by being quiet, me being quiet internally and being present with the other person, I will ask a question or share a story or a metaphor, or ask something that I can see triggers something for the other person. And I may not know why. I might ask them something about penguins, and I might, it's a pretty random thing, but I'm just going to ask you this about penguins, or share a story about penguins. And they will look at me as if I'm a lunatic, and they're like, how did you know that? Are you psychic? And I think that one of the things that I have begun to realize is, no, I'm not. But when we really listen, when we're present with somebody else, we can connect with them and help them see things in a different way that is truly, for me, being opposite them. It's mind-blowing to watch. That's why I often will say I think I've got the best job in the world. But I think these are skills that we can bring into everyday life, those foundations of coaching, the questioning and listening. But we could do with bringing them into our everyday life, whether that's with work or home life or friends or community. The difference that it can make is outstanding, really and truly. And I think that whilst I've been working nearly for 20 years as a coach now, and I can see the value of it, and I know that there's still depths and levels that I can go to with it, I still think it's something that could genuinely change the world and the communities that we live in. Me also as a coach, the top of that triangle, that point, is teaching. Because sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So that might be teaching a tool, it might be teaching a methodology, it might be sharing a story. But what I want to do in that top point is is to either make a point or point to another possibility. And for me, that's the way that I coach. Now, every coach is individual. Coaching themes, coaching styles, there are coaching commonalities. But every single one of us is individual, which is why it's important when you are looking to transform your life and you want to do that through the lens of coaching, is interview your coaches so that you can find the one that you connect with, even if you're uncomfortable, to help you get wherever it is that you want to get to. And I think that's what's so important, and why I wanted to share this with you today is because I know that One of the main reasons that I spent the first part of my life, the first 25 years, nearly 30 actually, struggling, suffering from issues that I didn't realize didn't have to be there, thought they were just me, or this is just how life is that I just wasn't clear what was out there. Now, as a reminder, the internet and the accessibility of that kind of conversation wasn't around back then, but it is now. But I think the opposite extreme could be happening, where there's so much information, there are so many methodologies, there are so many different people doing each of those individual methodologies that it can be a bit, well, where do I go? Who do I see? But take some time to get really clear for you and interview those people. And maybe one of those questions that you could ask is, if I wasn't going to work with you, who or what book, teacher, course would you recommend might be helpful for me to go on? Because I think that's going to give you an insight as well as to how they work and whether they are the right person for them, for you. But I didn't know that help was out there. Client said to me last week, I so wish that I'd have met you when I was younger, because my life would be so much different. And I'm like, yeah, I wish I'd have met all of this stuff when I was younger, because my life would be so different. However, we meet people, we learn the methodologies, we bump into them when we are ready. As the saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. So regardless of whether you are 20 or 50 or 70 or 100, now is the right time if you want to go and look for some support. Go do your research, go interview those people, ask them some questions, get as clear as you can on what it is that you need to help you come to your senses and wake up to the amazingness that is you, and how you can live your life potentially in a very more easeful way. Forget the very, in a more easeful way, because that's certainly what I have uncovered and genuinely think is possible for the majority of us, is to live a more easeful, happier life and make things more joyful on the day to day. So thank you for joining me on this episode of Coming to Your Senses, and I look forward to speaking to you very soon.